So I just went on vacation to the Midwest where my family's from. And the highlight, well, not the highlight, but a highlight of the trip was a stop at the greatest fast food burger chain in the world, which is Culver's. Have you heard of Culver's?
I don't think I have.
They have something called butter burgers, which are as good as they sound. They have frozen custard ice cream. They have mediocre fries, but they have cheese curds, like fried cheese curds,
Mhm.
and they have, this thing called a pot roast burger, where it's just a giant sandwich with pot. It's fantastic, and, it got me thinking about, like, the whole In-N-Out debate. Are you a
Yeah.
party to this?
I mean, I never really jump in on that because I've only had In-N-Out twice, and I was pretty disappointed, but I'm also not ready to write off In-N-Out because I've only had it twice, and I was sort of in a rush both times, didn't really spend the time to order correctly, apparently, according to everyone who I've ever talked to about it. Um, I wanna know what the butter burger is, though. Does it have actual butter in it, or is that about the bread?
That's a good question. I don't exactly know. All I know is it's a very rich, satisfying
So
burger.
the beef was good, like, it was the meat was good, because I'm not a huge fan of smash burgers, which are all the rage right now.
Mhm.
And I don't mind them, but I would prefer a regular burger that's a little bit more pink in the middle rather than just, like, the really flat patties.
I like both, but Culver's is more like what you're talking about. It's more of a traditional burger. Even the kids meal burger that my son got was probably a third of a pound. It was
Oh,
just
wow.
huge, and he couldn't finish it.
That sounds like a homemade burger, like, on a charcoal grill, which is the absolute best.
Yeah, I mean, it had definitely has that feeling. It's fantastic, and I think that it's the like I said, I think it's the best ever. I think In-N-Out is wildly overrated. I think this is a quite a controversial opinion whenever you say that because there's these people who think In-N-Out is the greatest thing ever. And I think In-N-Out's fine, like, they make good cheeseburgers. Their fries are the worst fries in all of
Yeah,
mankind.
I agree. I had it the first time when I was in we flew into Phoenix, Arizona, and I was going to Prescott for, like, it was a news story, and, I thought, "Oh, let's stop." We were in a rush anyway, and this is my first time having In-N-Out burger, and I could not believe how atrocious the fries were. I put them on the same level as Burger King fries, and I hate Burger King fries. And then the burger was fine, but I said, "This is, like, not that much better than a good Wendy's burger," and the photographer I was with almost elbowed me in the face because he had very strong opinions. Then I had it again in, like, Palm Desert, California, kind of felt the same way the second time, like, it's
Yeah.
not I'm not dying for it."
I think a lot of it's a nostalgia thing,
I
like,
think you're right.
it's better than eating McDonald's, certainly, and then nothing against McDonald's, but it's better than McDonald's, and so back when it was the gourmet option, the only good option, yeah, you go, and now you're an adult and you think it's the best. I don't get it. Shake Shack is better than In-N-Out. I mean, there's so many things that are better than In-N-Out. I think if you have to, like, hack the menu as everybody does with In-N-Out, maybe that tells you that it's not that great to begin with.
Yes. Yes, my point exactly. I don't wanna have to do homework before I go get a burger. I like Tillamook cheeseburgers from, Burgerville, but I do find that sometimes they're a little dry.
Mhm.
Like, you have to do a lot of post-ordering work to, like, make them to your liking, like, I have to add ketchup or mustard or whatever, do the thing, and I find that, although it's good and I know that they use local organic ingredients, blah, 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 it's a little expensive if you're just, like, taking the family just for a quick burger and your meal is on the front seat of your car in a bag and you're dropping $50. I mean, that's a little crazy, but I think it's like that everywhere now.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. My wife did the ordering at Culver, so I don't know how much she spent, but it's
Yeah,
we actually split a burger because 'cause they're so big and we just didn't want a huge burger.
yeah.
Um,
We
and then
just
the
got a
other thing.
Mike's drive-through, and you know what this is, and I drive past all the time on Lombard here in North Portland, and the line at all hours is crazy, and Bill and I are, "What is that place? We need to try it." You've been there?
I've been to the one in Milwaukee lots and lots and lots of times. Yeah,
Yeah?
and there used to be another one down on, Tacoma in Selwood area, and that one is now, Mio Sushi or something, but yeah, we've been
Okay.
there lots of times, yeah.
Looks like people dig the ice cream or whatever they have there. I don't know if it's shakes or ice cream. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, we always got shakes. Shakes were the thing, The burgers were
Nice.
good, a little greasy, but good. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
classic walk up burger stand stuff. It's pretty good stuff. But definitely better than like your typical fast food.
love it. I'm starving now.
Welcome to the Film Swap, the podcast where we challenge each other to watch the movies we've let slip through the cracks or have purposely shoved into the cracks for whatever reason. I'm Nick Voll.
And I'm Angelica Thornton, and today we are talking about Sunshine.
Our sun is dying. Mankind faces extinction. 16 months ago, I, Robert Capa, and a crew of 7 left Earth frozen in a solar winter. Our mission: reignite the sun before it's too late. Welcome to Icarus 2. So if you wake up one morning and it's a particularly beautiful day, you'll know we made it.
Sunshine is a 2007 science fiction psychological thriller film directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. It takes place in the year 2057, following a group of astronauts on a dangerous mission to reignite the dying sun. They are aboard Icarus 2, carrying a massive bomb in the hopes of reigniting the sun. An earlier mission, Icarus 1, did not succeed, and on the way to the sun, they pick up its distress beacon. They decide to dock with Icarus 1 to get its payload, and bad things start happening in space, which is a great genre of sci-fi. In the end, they discover that the previous ship's captain, was still alive and badly burned and was on a mission to destroy their mission. And eventually they get the bomb into the sun where it blows up and succeed in their mission, even though every single one of them dies. It is $40 million budget, took in only $32 million. It has become a bit of a sci-fi cult classic, I think. And it stars just a killer lineup of actors. You got Cillian Murphy of Oppenheimer, Chris Evans as Captain America, Rose Byrne. It's got Michelle Yeoh, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh. Its supporting characters are all great character actors: Cliff Curtis, Hiroyuki Sanada, Benedict Wong, Mark Strong, and more. Some of these folks before they really blew up, and now they have. Angelica, why had you not seen this movie?
No idea. I'd never even heard of it until you mentioned it.
I guess maybe that's part of the reason it didn't make money.
Yeah, I don't remember any buzz. I don't like I looked at the trailer and I don't remember seeing the trailer. So, yeah, I just didn't know it was out there.
All right, well, let's talk reactions. What did you think when you saw it?
Cinematically, I thought it was spectacular. And I will say, I had some technical problems watching this. For some reason, I couldn't stream it for the longest time. I was trying to work on this all day yesterday, and then our internet went out. It was just kind of a mess. So I started it over again. Then it went out again. Couldn't stream it. Our Chromecast was not working. I don't know what the deal was. So I ended up watching about half the movie on my phone, which is absolute bullshit, especially for a movie like this. But I will say, even watching it on my phone, I thought that it was I know it was CGI. It was a beautiful film. I was going to say, well, they shot the sun so beautifully. It looked really great. And then I thought 2007, that's impressive. It looked really cool. I thought all of that was great. Good cast, although maybe too good looking. I'm like, would a bunch of nerds in space be that attractive? Probably not. There wasn't one bad looking person on the ship. I mean, they all kind of looked hot. Exciting scenes. I thought when the mission started going into a tailspin, I really loved all that. I actually liked the plot twist, although I know that's a problem for some people. I read a couple things, that they thought that was a little absurd. I thought it was great. That actually may have saved the movie for me.
So you were not on board until they docked.
I mean, I was a little bored at the beginning. I thought it was a little slow, like just maybe the whole 45 minutes leading up to when the shit started hitting the fan. I thought, and confused. I was a little confused at times, especially when things started going wrong. But then it kind of picked up and I thought it was good. I think the acting wasn't spectacular. Like they were a little too stoic,
Mhm.
a little deadpan. Um, didn't see a ton of personality or charisma. And I know that Killian is sort of like that's his thing, but I wanted to see a little bit more, dive deeper into their stories a little bit.
Mhm.
I mean, they're saving humanity and they're all about to die. And I want to see more fear, more panic, more sadness, something like when she was talking about how she was scared. When Cassie was talking about how she was scared and she knew she was going to die, I was like, okay, I get that, but give me a little more here.
Mhm. I
I
think
mean,
like
I
you
guess they're scientists, they're astronauts. Maybe they were just thinking about this logically, but I mean, the point of the movie too, right, is the struggle between the science and the humanity of these people. And I wanted to see more of that, humanity.
Sure. I see what you're saying for sure. I think this movie was inspired in a lot of ways. You think about 2001: Space Odyssey, where there's almost
Hmm.
no emoting whatsoever. Um, and Alien, I mean, fear, they have fear, but like the beginning of the movie reminded me a lot of Alien in that they are on a space frigate. There's nothing really happening. They're all kind of bored. They've been there for a long time. So that explains sort of to me the slow nature of the beginning of the film.
Yeah. And they are trying to set that tone, like this is what their life has been, and it will drive you crazy eventually. So I get that.
Yeah. So then they set it up. We see the scenario, and then they decide to dock. There were a couple times in the movie where they have sort of that classic horror film mistakes. Like why would they do that? That leads them to failure. So those are some of the holes I felt I saw in the movie. Um, and there's just a few decisions where I just didn't understand why they did this or that, other than to move the plot forward. But those are kind of the small things I feel like we can forgive movies, especially movies that lean into the horror genre,
Yeah.
because you know if people act logically every time, there's no movie.
Right. Then it's a movie about averting disaster and I guess the genius behind that. It would be like Apollo 13,
Hmm.
just the process of it, which you mentioned, I think last week, you really like those. But that also showed, I think that film did a great job of showing us the humanity and who these people were and who's waiting for them at home and what's at stake. I mean, I can't compare these films, different, totally different, obviously. But that's why I think adding the thriller aspect of this and this twist that some people didn't like, where it's like, oh my God, he's still alive and he's burned and he looks like Freddy Krueger and he's going to kill them all. I thought that was exciting. I was like, good. Shit's happening now. This is good. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, you definitely got a sense of I don't know where this is going. Like, I know it's
Hmm.
going somewhere bad, but it's not obvious exactly what's gonna happen here. Even the build up to the full on crazy, like when the bridge between the two ships bursts or breaks, and later we find out that the captain, uh, whose name is totally escaping me, I'll find it. When he breaks the bridge, we found out, later. I'm sorry, I'm looking that up right now. It's Pinbacker. Pinbacker's
Oh yeah, that's
the
right.
captain's name. He breaks the bridge, and that's sort of like the first step of like what the hell's going on. I loved when they walked into the ship and all the dust was in the air from all the human skin. I thought that was
Yeah.
fantastic. Although, wouldn't it be filtered out, or did they turn all the systems off?
I
Broke the
don't know. That's one of those are the kinds of questions that I was overwhelmed with as I was watching. Like, wouldn't this be, and then I'm like, wait a minute, is everyone else getting this except for me? Um, but also I don't want an oversimplified, basic. I mean, we've had so many movies about space travel and extraterrestrial beings that are so oversimplified. They're just horrific. So I think what I'm trying to say is I'm probably too dumb to understand some of the basic stuff that was going on in this because I'm not a sci-fi person. So I can't judge.
Yeah, but I think that that's the thing, you don't need to be a sci-fi person, just as a film fan, you should be able to enjoy the film on its own
I
merit.
did, and I still did. It wasn't too much for me. It wasn't overwhelming.
And I like that it had a happy ending without being a sappy ending, you know what I mean? Like, it's
You
still
think it's
sad.
happy that they all died in the sun? I guess they saved humanity. They
Well, yeah,
saved
because you
Earth.
see at the end that the sun brightens
Yeah.
up home when the explosion happens. Now, I
Yeah,
don't
and I
know.
did think that that scene was just the right touch.
I mean, they all know. I think it's that thing where they all knew that they were doomed, and this whole "we're gonna go back home" thing is just them lying to themselves. You know, when deep
Yeah.
down they know they're doomed.
Do you think they knew they were doomed the whole time before we were, taken along on the journey?
I do.
I mean,
I
is it a
think
suicide mission? Is it a kamikaze mission from the beginning?
well, the first ship didn't return, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they know that there's an incredible amount of risk, and even the plan to get them home seems very fraught with danger. I mean, to detach and jet away and then hope that they don't get caught up in some giant solar wave or whatever it
Also,
is.
you're on a ship named Icarus, like, that's not great, right? You're flying into the sun.
I mean, yeah, it's a little heavy-handed there too with the ship naming, but it's kind of fun, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? I don't know. I really enjoyed that, there seemed to be really a lot of sound scientific, premises behind the whole movie, because there is an element of supernatural almost, with Pinbacker, there's, like, no rational reason he should still be alive and impervious to
yeah,
pain, and it seems like he's impervious to pain because he probably burned all his nerves off in that sunroom.
yeah.
But I appreciated that there was some actual science going on. I guess Cillian Murphy worked with the famous physicist Brian Cox, who taught him a lot about physics, and he praised his performance as being, realistic. And a lot of the scientific things they did in the movie apparently are pretty true.
And I love Michelle Yeoh and her p passion for that little plant, and the way she died was perfect.
Yeah. And I like too that it's a role where she gets to be a human and not just like a ass kicking machine.
Yeah,
She gets to actually like show her interior, life that she loves plants
yeah.
and she maybe
What sorry, interrupted you.
oh no, I was just say she maybe like had the most character development because at least you understood more about her.
I agree. This was the first this was the earliest film where I can remember Rose Byrne. Was she in anything before this that would have been
I
this high
guess
profile?
she was in Troy. That was kind of a flop, but
That's right. I
this was
don't know
definitely
if I
before she was
remember her in
famous.
that. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a big role. Yeah, she was in Troy and a few other things, and I don't think I feel like she didn't really get big until Bridesmaids, but
Yeah. That's the first movie where I remember even wondering who she was, and she's obviously great in that movie.
where what she was in before this, that was or at the same time, I guess. She was in 28 Weeks Later, the sequel to 28
Oh,
Days
yeah.
Later, which is also a Danny Boyle film, so it makes sense she's
Yes,
in both.
which I wanna see again. I haven't seen that in a really long time.
28 Days
And
Later?
that yeah, and that was so good.
Yeah, we actually rewatched it not too long ago. Every now and again, I don't love zombie movies necessarily, but I like good movies, and that's a good movie to me. Although we did watch a zombie movie last night. We watched Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder remake. This is a total tangent, but have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Well, I think
When
Zack
did that come
Snyder's
out?
2004. It's his first
I don't
movie.
think I've seen it. No, I don't think I have.
I think Zack Snyder's a terrible filmmaker, just awful. But that is his one movie that I like, and I was wondering why that is, and I realized because it was written by James Gunn, who you'll recognize from Marvel. He did Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's now taken over DC. So it's kind of funny to me that makes sense that he made one good movie because he had somebody who actually is good at making movies on his side. But
So, what's your beef with, Zack Snyder movies? Just curious.
I think they're all exercises
Just
in like style over substance. I hate the
yeah,
dark, moody, nihilistic approach he has. I think he just celebrates the ugliness. I think he's like his whole aesthetic is like, isn't this cool? So badass. That's like his whole. I mean, look at
yeah.
everything he did. 300. His Watchmen adaptation, the Watchmen fans hate. I actually don't mind it, but I also don't love it. But all of his Superman stuff, his Batman, all that DC stuff is just
Yeah,
unwatchable to me.
Watchmen, all of it. I'm looking at the list now.
That movie, with the girls in like skimpy outfits that kill people, just was terrible. I don't remember what it's called.
Huh.
I don't know. So
Interesting.
this is a whole side thing, has nothing to do with the movie we're watching. But I guess one thing that I guess there is something about this because so Zack Snyder makes these nihilistic movies about bad stuff happening, and they feel like a drag to me. And then you've got Danny Boyle, who's got such like lively energy in all of his movies. This is a very dark movie, ultimately, despite the name Sunshine. It still though feels like there are real human beings fighting for something good, as opposed to this death march, which is what they're really on. I don't. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
It's like
They're
a
not
celebration
robots,
of the
they're people,
human.
and they're sitting there having real discussions about, should we kill someone that we've been on this ship with for 16 months or whatever because we need more oxygen and there's a chance he really screwed up and, cost us a couple lives. And those are the scenes that are the best in this film, I think,
Mhm.
where you're really challenged with these moral questions that can you even imagine having to deal with?
Yeah, and again, that's another reason I like this movie too. And then you mentioned that it doesn't have a lot of character development. I think it's just slow in its character development, and that
Yeah.
you get it in glimpses, and you don't need to know too much about their characters really, because what you need to know is that they're scientists, then they're doomed, and that's kind of it, right? I mean,
And they all know that ultimately the answer is, yeah, we're all gonna die on this thing. Um,
no matter
but
what
we
they
have to,
tell themselves.
yeah, we have to save Earth. Yeah. Cillian Murphy, even when I don't think that his performance is like, top notch, he's so good. His face is so good.
Hmm.
Um, he, I was watching this and I was thinking, God, I got to restart Peaky Blinders.
I
He's
never actually watched
just,
that.
yeah, he's a great actor. I started watching it and I enjoyed it, but then I was thinking, God, I'm relying so much on the subtitles. Maybe I'm just too busy. Maybe I don't have time to sit down and enjoy this. And then as I'm watching this on my phone yesterday, I said, I got to talk to Nick about surround sound because Bill and I have a big TV in the basement, big TV. It's 60 inches. Our other TVs are tiny. And we're always using closed captioning now. Is that because we're middle-aged and we have hearing loss, or do we need to set up surround sound to enjoy this experience more? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B.
Yeah,
Are you using the built-in speaker on the TV?
yeah, I'm assuming.
Well, that's part of your problem. They all suck. So even if you don't get surround sound, at least get a sound bar. But I think surround sound, 5.1 surround sound is the way to go, because it makes this is fascinating, I'm sure, for everyone. But it creates like a center channel where they direct all the dialogue. So it's more of a direct. You're not going to get the tinniness and the echo that you get out of built-in speakers. And so the surround sound itself isn't going to help you, like, necessarily. The having the speakers behind you that'll have the little random gunshots or whatever in the movie you're watching. It's having a dedicated uh dialogue speaker, effectively. But yeah, you should
No,
go for it.
this is great information because I don't know any of this stuff, and I am one of these people who now prefers to stay home. I know, this is like, "Oh god, we don't want like, actually going to the movies to die," and I will go to the movies to see certain things, but I really love watching movies at home, and if I can make that experience a little bit better, you know, I
Yeah, and I mean,
mean,
and it depends what your budget is too. But now with like all Bluetooth technologies and things like that, you don't have to run a million cables everywhere. So like
yeah.
when we moved into our basement, I set up a system and it's got wires running everywhere, but it took me half a day to put all that in. Now you can just buy a system where you just set the speakers where you want, turn them
Yeah.
on and walk away. It makes it really easy, for sure.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I also probably should get my hearing checked, but, that's another story.
I mean, that's slowly happening to all of us. I tell you, like, I lose in busy, crowded rooms. I lose people's voice sometimes. And I
Yeah.
know that I have the kind of voice, when it's like on the mic, it's fine. But in a crowd, my voice is one of those that just disappears. It's like, right.
So is mine. I get really raspy, so the end of my words disappear. Like I can hear it right now. I also have been wearing an earpiece, we call it IFB in broadcasting, in my right ear for 27 years on full blast. And I know it's way louder than everyone else because if I don't turn it down and someone plugs into it when I'm done, not my earpiece, but the little box that you plug into so you can hear, the control room and programming. Whoa. It's like, oh my God, this is so loud and I feel really bad. So I make sure to turn it down every single time. So I don't know if it's damage from, noise induced hearing loss from work, or I did put a Q-tip right through that eardrum once too. So that could have contributed to some
Mm.
hearing loss on that side. I do this a lot where I'm like, if I have to focus on a conversation, if it's loud, I turn to the left instead of the right.
I'm just envisioning you as an old lady with one of those tin horns in your ear, like,
I'm
"What?"
serious. I was talking to my father-in-law, who's going to be 85 in a month. And we were talking about AirPods. And I said, do you use AirPods? And he said, no, but my new hearing aid that I'm getting is like an AirPod where you can listen to podcasts and music. And when someone walks up to you, you just pause it and then you can hear them. Before he would have to he still goes to the gym and listens to stuff. He has to take his his AirPods or whatever it is he's using out, put his hearing aid in to have a conversation with someone. So they're standing there for 3 minutes waiting to talk to him. And he's like, this is amazing. You can do it all at once. It's essentially your AirPods or your hearing aid. And I'm like, oh, well, at least I have that to look forward to.
Yeah, technology, right?
Yay. Go to the sun, blow it up, save Earth,
Uh, uh,
/ get a hearing aid.
my right ear is the same way from all the DJing stuff because I always put my
Oh,
when
yeah.
you DJ in a
Mhm.
loud area, you usually have one headphone on and one off.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna hear the room, what's playing out on the speakers, but you also wanna hear what you're queuing up, and so I always put my can on my, headphone on my right side, and so, yeah, I think it's hitting me.
Yeah. Do you wear earplugs, when you go to concerts or do any of that stuff?
I have only done it a couple of times, but frankly, since we had our son and even before that, I just don't go to concerts very often
Yeah.
anymore. Um,
We bring earplugs everywhere. In fact, last week, both of my kids were at School of Rock camp. One was drumming, one was on guitar all week, and then they have, a concert on Friday afternoon, and they, like, pretty much forced everyone to put the earplugs in, all the kids for sure that were at the camp, and, all the adults were using them, and I just I know that when we were kids and we were playing instruments and doing all that stuff and going to concerts, we never wore earplugs, and I keep telling my kids, "You gotta do it," because there are musicians in their early 40s who have severe hearing loss now.
yeah, for sure. And I'm not one of them, fortunately, but I don't have that much hearing loss from this DJing stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Sorry,
it's
I just took us down an audiology, tangent. Sorry about that.
it's all right. Uh, what haven't we talked about here? So first off, the guy who wrote this is Alex Garland. So we've talked about Garland and we've talked about Danny Boyle. Well, so 28 weeks later and 28 days later was written by Alex Garland. Alex Garland later went on to write and direct some amazing sci-fi movies, including Ex Machina, which we have discussed on this very podcast. I think he's one of the best writers of science fiction films ever, and I think he's an excellent director now. Um, so it's kind of fun. You don't think about always the fact that these films come from somewhere, that someone wrote them. You think about Cillian Murphy or Chris Evans. You don't think about the guy who spent 3 years making this movie, Garland and
Right.
Boyle, the guys. So it's kind of been fun as further I've gotten into film to really start focusing on the writers because
Yeah.
that's where you get the sense of what the movie actually is going to be.
How would you put those 2 movies next to each other? Because I really loved, El Machina, and I thought that that movie had what I was looking a little more for in this film, but, I mean, it's totally different. It's a much quieter film. There aren't huge disasters happening.
Yeah, Ex Machina to me is I mean, it's a psychological thriller more than anything. I feel like this movie is more of a horror film than anything or
Yeah,
science fiction. Um, I feel like it basically starts off as a sci-fi movie and then becomes a horror movie. I don't think it
yeah,
has the psychological elements of Ex Machina, which I think is a perfect film.
yeah, Ex Machina was really good. I remember you wanted me to watch that because I'm not a huge sci-fi person. I do think I have to go back and watch Sunshine, like, properly.
Mhm.
It's a little insane to watch half of it on your phone. But I still really liked it. It's not a perfect film to me, but I thought it was really enjoyable. I would totally recommend this to people, everyone too, not just sci-fi fans.
Yeah, and I don't think Sunshine is a perfect film either. There are definitely problems with it. I think it's an eminently rewatchable film, and I say that having now watched it probably 4 times. I I think it's very rewatchable. I think there's all these little details that make it so, you can hone in on little points here and there that maybe you didn't quite catch before. Um, I don't know, I kinda like movies like that. I think that failures of movies like this, like, this was a failure, are really too bad because it helps get us into this place we are now with movies where it's all sequels and existing IP, and it's harder and harder to get original films made. Although it's interesting now this week, we're recording this right after Barbie and Oppenheimer came out that are just huge films. And maybe we're going to
Right.
reach a turning point here where they start saying, and this also comes on the heels of like The Flash being a major bomb. Maybe they're going to start saying, hey, maybe we should start making smart, interesting, original movies again. And
Yeah, what the first time the number 1 at the box office over the weekend made 100 million, and the second one made over 50 million, which is crazy. And I think the whole phenomenon on watching both of them as a double feature is crazy. I love it though. Why not?
yeah, it's a cool idea. And I think we all love going to the movie theater, most of
Mhm.
us, and it's kind of this is a great way to get people back in because, you think too about the blockbusters like the Star Wars and the Marvel and the DC. Streaming has helped and hurt those, right? Like, why do I need to go see, and as somebody who's seen all the Marvel movies, I don't go to see them in the theater anymore because I know that in 2 months they're going to be on Disney Plus.
Right, and here I am talking about putting surround sound in my basement so I don't have to leave the house, but I do need to leave the house because there's something special about going and seeing it in the theater with so many other people, especially a movie like this. Those are the important ones to watch in the theater. Did you like The Martian?
I loved it. I loved the book
Yeah,
too.
I did too. I haven't read the book. I thought that was great, and so I think, we need more stories like this. Like, they're
Mhm.
really great like that. I love a survival story, whether it's like Castaway or The Martian, and I wanna see more.
Yeah, movies about smart people overcoming problems. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like The Martian.
Problem
It's very
solving. Yeah,
process-based.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's an original piece of work and it's done by an auteur director, Ridley Scott. So like, and Danny Boyle is an auteur who's made some great films. I just hope we can get back to that place. Because I get so excited sometimes about some movies and I really want to see them in the theater, but those movies are getting so few and far in between now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I just got a little flash of The Martian too, and I was thinking again about Michelle Yeoh finding you know, that little
mm,
plant that had survived, and I was like, "Oh yeah, The Martian." I forgot about that movie. That was only 8 years ago, and that was really good.
the little potato plant he sprouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And this kind of undercuts what I just said, but I was thinking about going to the theater. The last movie I saw in the theater was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which obviously is existing IP or intellectual property. It's a sequel, but it's the kind of movie I got excited to go see because at least it didn't feel like it was a cookie cutter kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just want more movies like this where you can get excited to go. And I don't know if I'll get to Barbie or Oppenheimer in the theater because of the little kid situation and babysitting and all that sort of thing. But I feel like maybe we're getting to the place where I want to go see these movies in the theater again.
I agree. It's like when we were younger and there were, you know, at the most 10 really great TV shows, and I think I'm being generous when I say 10. There were probably 4 or 5 good
Yeah.
shows a year, and we all watched them, and we all watched the same events, and we all watched the Academy Awards, and we all watched things together, and it was this huge deal, and now we're just overwhelmed in this golden age of television and streaming and movies and stuff, and the magic kinda gets lost because we're so spoiled. So it is nice we get to talk about Barbie all together or Oppenheimer. And on Monday, people are like, "Did you go?" Yes, I did go. This is the first time I can remember everyone sort of bonding over a movie experience in a really long time.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore, and hopefully that'll kickstart theaters a little bit because they struggled, and
Yeah.
I just hope that, especially with the writer strike and the actor strike going on now too, the entire industry just rethinks how they do things because, you look at Netflix, for example, you're talking about all these great shows. Netflix famous for producing a bunch of great shows and then not promoting them, and then they die. And then the people who work so hard on them get nothing. They don't get money for the residuals. And then they're basically putting their heart and soul into a product that the Netflix is going
Yeah.
to essentially abandon. And so
Yeah, same with HBO, same with any of them. It's like, "Oh, you guys are a dime a dozen. Another good show will come up the pipeline." It's like, no. Not only did people dedicate years of their lives to this, the person who created the show, God knows how many years, but the fans out there are outraged. There are change.org petitions. How dare you take that away from us? And
mhm.
that sucks when you invest all that time and then they're like, "Yeah, we're not bringing it back." Eh,
And I think that's one of the reasons Apple Plus has been such a great streamer, because they don't have nearly as many shows as the other, and their hit to miss ratio is through the roof.
yeah.
Every show I've watched on Apple TV has been excellent, and they just don't come out with as many. So they're really focusing on making good products that people can invest in, and then they promote them. And I think this seems like a no-brainer to me. It just seems so much better than this whole, like, throwing all this stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. You know, it's art. I guess that's the other thing. It's art. It's not commerce. Commerce stems from the art. It's not vice versa. And so, you've been seeing this with the writer strike. They talk about the reason that the studios like sequels and existing IP is because that puts the executives in charge, as opposed to the other model where the artists are coming up with the content and directing where the business goes based on the art they make,
Yep.
rather than the
Mhm.
product or content that the suits dictate.
No, seriously, it's like they're pushing out new boxes of cereal, only different flavors. It's not even a new box of cereal. It's the same cereal, slightly different flavor. And
Mhm.
that's what it feels like as far as the marketing and everything else. Hey, you are from here. You probably go to the movies way more than I do. Do you have a favorite theater that you and Marissa go to?
Well, I mean, the Baghdad probably is my favorite theater on Hawthorne. We used to go back when it was a second run theater and before they'd done all the renovations, and I
Mhm.
liked that better because it was cheap, and but now it's a first run theater. They have food, and it's McMenamin's food, so it's not the best, but still they have food in the balcony. They completely redid the screen and all the sound, so it looks and sounds beautiful, and it's a gorgeous theater inside. So that's probably my favorite.
Okay.
But a lot of times we'll just go down to, like, the Westmoreland, which is near our house, or honestly, we end up at Clackamas Mall half the time just because they have the new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta go where it's playing, right? Where it's convenient for the time, but,
W when
um,
when we first
I
started
like to
dating, we were at Cinema 21 all the time watching indie movies back when, we had time and,
yeah,
money. Well, I mean, we have more money now, but you know what I'm saying, money to burn on that sort of thing.
absolutely.
How about you guys?
I mean, we end up going up the street to, like, the St. John's Twin Cinema or the McMenamins up there, and that's great, especially if you're taking the kids and you're watching a film. I mean, like, I can't imagine going to a theater now and not being able to, like, order dinner. We're so
Yeah.
spoiled. It used to be really special, right? Now it's, like, everywhere in Portland, so I think we have so many good options. I mean, come on, you can even go to an afternoon matinee with babies in Portland, which is amazing. So but I don't have, like, any, like, spectacular, "Oh, I only wanna watch movies here." Living room theater is great. They're all great. I do prefer to go to the smaller local ones, but
Mhm.
like you said, they're second runs, so you gotta go to the big chains sometimes.
We used to go to Cinemagic on Hawthorne as well a lot because we could walk there from our house. It was like 2.5 miles. It was a long walk, but we would walk there and, see movies there, and one time we snuck beer in but before we snuck beer in, we had taken like some shots of whiskey and got totally blackout drunk and like wound up at home about 3 hours later, no recollection of the film or what we'd been doing. Yeah, and we had walked home, so obviously we got home. I don't know how.
That's crazy. Do you guys sneak candy in?
No, not usually.
I mean, no matter how much money I make, I will always sneak at least one thing of candy in.
I
Sorry, everyone who's running the theaters. I still buy drinks and beer and wine and food and everything else, but I just feel like I have to. I have to sneak like one box of Mike and Ike's in or something.
Mike
Junior
and
Mints.
Ike's. What are you, a child?
I love Mike and Ike's. You don't like Mike and Ike's?
No, I don't like any kind of candy that sticks to my teeth. Like I have a
Yeah, that's
real
good.
weird
You
thing about
probably
that.
have really good teeth. I eat those, but won't let my kids eat them. I won't let my kids eat Starburst, any of that stuff. I throw it away and I save like 10 red ones and eat them myself. So
I
total
like
hypocrite.
chocolate. That's what I like. I like chocolate. We have speaking of I don't know, nothing. I was trying to make a segue out of thin air and I couldn't. What are we watching next week?
We are watching The Notebook. You got to watch this one with Marissa. I don't know. I kind of feel like you'll like it.
Okay. I like Gosling. I like McAdams.
Yeah, you like rom-coms. I mean, this is good. You'll like it.
It's not a comedy though, right?
No, it's not. But there's some funny moments. You know, it's good. It's a little sticky sweet. But I think I have a pretty low tolerance for that stuff, but these guys pull it off in my opinion.
Okay. Now the guy who wrote that book, what's his face? He
Nicholas, wait,
Sparks.
what's his name? Yeah, Nicholas Sparks, right?
He is like got
Yeah.
this whole string of like absolutely atrocious looking movies, and I think that's the main reason I've never seen this because all of his other ones look so bad. And so I'm curious to see if I've been wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea. I still can't peg you after almost a year. It could go one way or the other.
Okay, good. I like to keep
I think
the
you'll like it though. I'm leaning towards Nick will like it.
Okay, good. It's good that we have like this episode where we agree more or less because we've had a couple lately where we have not. And I don't know if that's better or worse, but we'll see how we feel about The Notebook. And do you want to
Braveheart.
close with our new close?
Yeah.
Are we going to try to count it down?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Love actually
Love
sucks.
actually sucks.
Yeah, you see the delay. We're never
Do
going
it
to be able
again.
to count
Do it
it
again.
down.
1, 2, 3.
Love
actually sucks. And so do we. See you next week.
Film Swap is produced and hosted by Angelica Thornton and Nick Voll. You can watch or listen on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Follow Angelica on Twitter at Angelica KATU and follow Nick at Nick Voll. Share your thoughts on the films we discussed there, and we might just read them on the show. Music by John Michael Farley and Nick Voll.